Today's Mind Expansion daily topic is the Monroe Doctrine, History and Modern Relevance. The Monroe Doctrine is one of the most enduring and influential statements of U.S. foreign policy. Introduced in 1823 by President James Monroe during his 7th annual message to Congress, this doctrine signaled a pivotal shift in the United States' approach to international relations. While its relevance has ebbed and flowed over the years, its principles continue to shape how the U.S. interacts with the Western Hemisphere and the world. The origins of the Monroe Doctrine. In the early 19th century, the geopolitical landscape of the Americas was undergoing significant change. Many Latin American nations were securing independence from European colonial powers, such as Spain and Portugal. At the same time, European nations like France and Russia were exploring ways to expand their influence in the region. To counter this, President Monroe, with significant input from Secretary of State John Quincy Adams, declared that the Americas were no longer open to European colonization. Any European interference in the Western Hemisphere would be viewed as a threat to U.S. security and peace. The U.S. would not interfere in European affairs or existing colonies in the Americas. While Monroe issued this bold statement, the U.S. in 1823 lacked the military power to enforce it. Instead, the doctrine relied on Britain's naval strength, as Britain also opposed renewed European colonization in the Americas for trade-related reasons. The Monroe Doctrine in practice over the next 2 centuries, the Monroe Doctrine evolved beyond its original intent. 19th century expansion. 1. During the 19th century, the doctrine was invoked to justify U.S. actions in the Western Hemisphere, including the annexation of Texas and the Mexican-American War. 2. In 1904, President Theodore Roosevelt expanded the doctrine with the Roosevelt Corollary, asserting the U.S.'s right to intervene in Latin America to stabilize economic and political instability. 20th century influence. 1. The doctrine played a significant role during the Cold War, as the U.S. sought to prevent Soviet influence in Latin America. Key events, such as the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962, saw the doctrine invoked to push back against communism in the region. 2. However, this era also saw criticism of the doctrine, as U.S. interventions in Latin America often led to political and social turmoil in countries like Chile, Guatemala, and Nicaragua. Modern relevance of the Monroe Doctrine. In the 21st century, the Monroe Doctrine remains a subject of debate. Its principles continue to resonate, but the geopolitical context has shifted dramatically. Challenges from other powers. While the doctrine originally targeted European colonization, the rise of global powers like China and Russia has raised new questions about its relevance. For example, China's growing economic influence in Latin America, through trade and investments in infrastructure, has led some to argue that the Monroe Doctrine needs to be reimagined. Regional cooperation versus intervention. Modern U.S. policy emphasizes partnership and mutual respect in the Western Hemisphere, as seen through organizations like the Organization of American States, OAS. However, there are still instances where U.S. actions in Latin America are viewed as reminiscent of past Monroe Doctrine-era interventions. Immigration and border issues. Issues like migration, drug trafficking, and economic instability in Latin America continue to draw the U.S.'s attention. While these challenges may not directly relate to the doctrine's original intent, they highlight the ongoing interconnectedness of the Western Hemisphere. Criticism and re-evaluation. The Monroe Doctrine has been criticized for justifying U.S. interventionism and undermining the sovereignty of Latin American nations. Critics argue that it often served U.S. economic and strategic interests at the expense of regional autonomy. On the other hand, proponents contend that the doctrine laid the groundwork for the Western Hemisphere's independence from European interference, fostering stability and sovereignty in the Americas. This is what it's about. The Monroe Doctrine, born out of a desire to protect the Americas from European colonialism, has played a significant role in shaping U.S. foreign policy. While its original context no longer applies, its themes of hemispheric security and independence remain relevant. In an era of global interconnectedness, the doctrine serves as both a historical marker and a reminder of the evolving challenges in U.S.-Latin American relations. Whether as a tool for diplomacy or a relic of interventionist policies, the Monroe Doctrine continues to spark discussions about the U.S.'s role in the Western Hemisphere and beyond. Please leave your comment and let us know what you think. Please like and subscribe for your daily dose of fun learning.